Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. In his strongest statement yet on any issue since taking power, President Bongbong Marcos calls the Vice President's threat on his life criminal.
But Vice President Sara Duterte says her statements should not be considered a national security issue since it was, quote, maliciously taken out of logical context.
And the Vice President herself showed up today at the inquiry on her office's confidential funds. In her usual feisty mode, VP Sara questioned the decisions and the integrity of the House of Representatives.
It was her worst threat to date. Vice President Sara Duterte talks of having the first couple and House Speaker Martin Romualdez killed if she herself falls from an assassin.
The government security agencies had stepped up safety protocols as they consider the Vice President's remarks an active threat to the President.
This time around, President Marcos did not shy away from commenting on the Vice President's tirades, issuing a statement before leaving for an official trip. Ria Fernandez has tonight's big story.
May kinausap na ako na tao. Sinabi ko sa kanya, kapag pinatay ako, patayin mo si BBM, si Lisa Araneta, at si Martin Romualdez. No joke. No joke.
Vice President Sara Duterte's statement was the talk of the town this weekend. Her incendiary remarks came amid a House panel investigation into the alleged questionable budget use of the OVP and DepEd and the detention for contempt of the OVP's Chief of Staff Zulaika Lopez. In a taped video message, President Bongbong Marcos gave his reaction before he left for the United Arab Emirates. He said he found such statements alarming.
Kung ganun na lang kadali ang pagplano sa pagpatay ng isang presidente, paano pa kaya ang mga pangkaraniwan na mamamayan? Yung ganyang kriminal na pagtatangka ay hindi dapat pinapalampas. Yan ay aking papalagan.
Marcos did not mention a vice president by name, but was obviously referring to her in his statement.
Hindi na sanang hahantong sa ganitong drama kung sasakodin lamang ang mga lehitimong katanungan sa Senado at sa House of Representatives. Ang katotohanan ay hindi dapat itokhang. Imbis na diretsahang sagot, nililihis pa sa kwentong chicheria.
The president also took note of that he served in Congress for 12 years, and as such, he said he knows its independence should be respected.
Kailangan manaig ang batas sa anumang sitwasyon, sino man ang tamaan. Kaya hindi ko hahayaan magtagumpay ang hangarin ng iba na hatakin ang buong bansa sa burak ng politika.
Because of VP Sara's threats, security has been visibly tightened in Malacanang. Each vehicle entering the compound has to be thoroughly inspected. Protocols have also been adjusted, although they could not say yet if among these would be having the president wear a bulletproof vest or ride in a vehicle with bulletproof glass, as what they did in the past with former President Rodrigo Duterte.
I-double natin yung security ng president, lalo sa mga upcoming activities niya, mas iligting natin yung security.
For his part, House Speaker Martin Romualdez also addressed the Vice President's remarks during the lower house's session today. Romualdez said these were a direct threat to democracy and to national security.
We cannot let this pass as mere rhetoric. The gravity of such confession demands accountability. It demands answers. It demands that we, as the representatives of the Filipino people, take a stand to protect our democracy from any and all forms of threats.
Romualdez believes this is just to divert public attention from the OVP's confidential funds that are the subject of scrutiny in the House Committee on Good Government. That is why, for the Speaker, all congressmen should unite in protecting the House of Representatives as an institution.
Kung wala kang itinatago, bakit hindi sagutin ang mga tanong? Karapatan ng taumbayan na malaman ang katotohanan. To mock our protocols, to defy our orders, and to malign our leaders is to disrespect the Filipino people who elected us to serve.
For News 5, I'm Ria Fernandez. We are One News.
Well, the vice president has backtracked from her open threat against the first couple and the House Speaker. She turned the tables on the National Security Council for supposedly taking her remark out of context. Duterte questions the authority of the NSC, which she is a member of, to treat her statement as a matter of national security. She also issued an ultimatum to the NSC to explain how it came up with this assessment and why she has been excluded from its meetings since June of 2022.
I would like to see a copy of the notice of meeting with proof of service, the list of attendees, the photos of the meeting, and the notarized minutes of the meeting where the council, whether this present council or the past councils, resolved to consider the remarks by a vice president against a president maliciously taken out of logical context as a national security concern.
But the NSC is not backing down on its own investigation into Duterte's death threats. It said any threat to the life of the president is always considered a national security concern since the chief executive symbolizes democratic institutions, values, and aspirations of the country. The NSC likewise stresses that the president's safety is a non-partisan and non-political concern. It calls on anyone questioning the probe of security and law enforcement agencies to just wait for official findings.
Taken out of context or not, the vice president's statements over the weekend has prompted a full investigation from government. And joining us tonight on the line is NBI Director Jaime Santiago, who in a press conference early today discussed possible consequences that the vice president may face. Magandang gabi po sa inyo, Director.
Ay, magandang gabi po sa inyo, ma'am. Sa mga nakikinig sa atin.
Director, the NBI is leading the investigation on the death threat on the president. But how are you planning to approach this? Because the vice president already said that this was maliciously taken out of logical context. But if you take a look at it, it is the second highest official in the land, threatening the highest official in the land. Paano po ang approach nyo dito sa kasong ito?
Yes, ma'am, we're not taking it lightly, no? This is a serious matter, especially coming from the second highest officer of the land, Vice President po, at abogada po siya. She should know the consequences of what she is saying. Kaya po tinututukan namin mabuti ang investigation at kasi po mandato po ng National Bureau of Investigation under Republic Act 10867 na mag-imbestiga motu proprio on any threats involving the security and assault upon the persons of the President, the Vice President, down to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
But where exactly do you plan to start? You already issued a subpoena to the Vice President, am I correct?
I think it's out tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow, di ba? Or ilabas nyo na ba, Director?
Nakapaglabas na po kami ng subpoena, but it will be served early in the morning tomorrow. First hour in the morning, my agents will go to the office of the Vice President and serve the subpoena.
Okay. Pagkatapos po noon, kapag siya po ay pumunta po sa inyo, ano po ang kailangan niyang gawin? And in case hindi po siya mag-appear, ano naman po ang mangyayari?
Kanina, nagpahayag ang ating Vice President na pagka natanggap niya ang subpoena, she will be willing to cooperate with us. Kaya wala naman kami nakikitang problema. But then, if she will not appear before our office, then kung ano man na-gather namin na information, we will have to transmit that to the Department of Justice. Bahala na ang Department of Justice mag-aral if there is prima facie evidence na against her.
Okay. Sinabi rin po, no, Director Santiago, ni Vice President Sara Duterte, hinamon niya po kayo, meron din daw pong threats against her. Are you also, in the interest of fairness, gonna be looking into that?
Yes, gano'n naman po eh. Sabihin niya lang sa amin na may threat sa kanya, imbestigahan din po namin yan. Sabi ko nga po sa inyo, mandato ng National Bureau of Investigation na protektahan ang not only the President, but the highest officers of the land up to the Chief Justice, ma'am.
Okay. Kanina nga sa press con ninyo sa Palasyo, Director Santiago, andun din po yung DOJ Undersecretary Andres said no, na tinitignan nila possibly grave threat sedition. Pero can you explain to us no, paano po kayo magko-coordinate in order to conduct the investigation and finalize the charges? Paano po yung proseso?
Or find reasonable ground?
Yes, ma'am, pag-uusap-usapan namin kung ano ang proper charges na maisasampa, depende sa mga itutugon ni Vice President Sara. Sa ngayon, meron kaming mga hawak na ebidensya, basis kung saan doon namin ang base, ang mga charges na isasampa sa kanya. But then, kung depende sa kanyang magiging sagot sa amin, doon pa lang namin malalaman yung proper charges, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, Director, are we also looking at a possible arrest dito kay VP Sara? Kasi kung matatandaan po natin, in 2020, there was that case when the NBI arrested this 25-year-old public school teacher for posting on Twitter na he was offering a 50 million peso reward para daw patayin si former President Rodrigo Duterte, and 6 days later, inaresto po siya ng NBI without any warrant of arrest. How is this different po with the case with this latest incident with the Vice President?
Ito po out of courtesy sa kay Vice President Sara, being the Vice President, the second highest officer of the land, at saka for purposes because of due process. Bibigyan po namin siya ng pagkakataon muna na sagutin yung mga aming mga katanungan na laban sa kanya. At
Go ahead.
ipapasa po namin yun sa prosecutor's office kung sino mag-aaral ng proper charges against her.
Clarify lang natin, Director Santiago. Once, kunwari, bukas ng umaga, napadala nyo na yung subpoena, we already know and you told us that the Vice President will be given 5 days to reply. Ano po pa yung reply? Is it a personal appearance? Is it a letter na notarized? Paano po yun? Ipakikwento po sa amin, ano po yung normal procedure na nagyayari?
Actually, the subpoena ay nagsasabi na mag-appear siya sa amin na ang nabasa ko kanina ay sa Biyernes, alas 9 ng umaga. Tapos from there, malalaman na niya yung mga katanungan sa amin. She may be assisted by her own counsel at pwede silang humingi ng ilang araw para sagutin yung mga katanungan namin in writing. Ganun po magiging proseso.
Director, patungkol po dun sa kaso na binanggit ni Paulina, gusto ko lang itanong kung ano pong update dun sa 25-year-old teacher noong 2020, kasi that was not taken lightly by the NBI. He was arrested for inquest for inciting to sedition related to cybercrime and violation of code of conduct as a public school teacher. So ano po yung nangyari sa kanya? Nasaan na po siya ngayon?
Na-dismiss yung kaso sa pagkakaintindi namin tama po ba ito?
Yeah.
Oho.
Opo. Na-dismiss po yung kaso. Hindi ko po alam kung anong nangyari, pero parang ang dinig namin, parang pinatawad din po ni Pangulong PRRT. Opo.
So comparing it with the statements of the Vice President, because this teacher, nagsorry po siya. At sinabi po nung panahon na yon na kahit hindi niya intensyon, this is not taken lightly, hindi pwedeng idaan sa sorry. In the same way that the Vice President now is saying that these statements were maliciously taken out of logical context. Does this mean that if you compare the two cases, and sinasabi niyo po na walang exemption, walang special treatment, bukod sa yung courtesy to the Vice President's office, ay an arrest is a possibility. It is in the horizon.
Depende po yan kung makakita ng prima facie case ang DOJ at isang pa ang kaso sa court finally at ang court ay nag-issue ng warrant of arrest, then the Vice President will be arrested.
The case will need to be filed by the DOJ. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, opo. Isasampa po muna sa DOJ, then DOJ will conduct a preliminary investigation on the matter, and if situation warrant, ay magpapile po ng case sa korte.
Director, what about this assassin or yung hitman nga na kinausap daw po ng Vice President? Is that something the NBI will also be investigating? Because VP Sara did say na itong kausap niya responded in the affirmative dun sa kanyang instructions. Sinabi po niya, yes.
Kasama po yan sa investigahan namin na we will try to identify through sa pakikipagtulungan. Kung makikipagtulungan si Vice President Sara at sabihin namin niya sa amin kung sino yung kausap niyang mga tao.
Okay. So I guess the most, kumbaga, pinakaabangan na lang namin, Director Santiago, is a Friday morning, whether or not sisipot si Vice President Sara Duterte sa inyong tanggapan?
At tama po yun, gano'n na nga po.
All right. We'll wait for that update on Friday. But in the meantime, maraming salamat po for your time with us on The Big Story tonight. We have NBI Director Jaime Santiago.
We're pausing for a quick break, but up next, Vice President Sara Duterte finally attends the House committee hearing into the use of the OVP's confidential funds. We'll take a look at her tense interaction with lawmakers when we return. Keep it here, only on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
Finally, Vice President Sara Duterte made an appearance at the House of Representatives, not as a spectator, but as a resource person. Now, while she agreed to take an oath this time around, the VP was still her usual defiant self. Marian Enriquez with the story.
The House Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability started its 7th hearing with a discussion of what transpired over the weekend and how Zuleika Lopez is doing. The OVP Chief of Staff skipped the inquiry and presented documents stating she has acute stress disorder. But House Deputy Speaker J.J. Suarez is not buying this.
Totoo po na meron po siyang certificate of confinement. Kaso lang hindi po naman po sinasabi dito ng kanyang mga doktor na hindi po siya physically incapable of attending today's hearing. Hindi binanggit dito na dahil sa kanyang kondisyon, hindi siya makakarating.
Lopez's contempt citation was supposed to be lifted on Monday, but ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro moved to extend Lopez's detention by 5 more days, which Vice President Sara Duterte tried to stop.
Wala na po
Mr.
tayong...
Chair, respectfully, may I say something?
But the House panel refused to let Duterte go on until she does one thing first.
Honorable Vice
Mr. Chair?
President, before I recognize you, would you like to take your oath?
Yeah.
I
Mr.
will only
Chair.
recognize you if you will take your oath.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do this.
After taking the oath, Duterte was unstoppable.
You need to reconsider that extension of your detention. It was illegal in the first place.
If our action of detaining your chief of staff is against the law, I think the proper remedy, and I think you're a lawyer,
Yes, sir.
the proper remedy is to go to the court.
I will go to court.
Opo, pero
Oo,
that is
pero
your...
araw-araw, you are depriving a person of her liberty while I await.
That is the decision of the committee as a whole. Sana po, respetuhin po ninyo.
Yes, sir.
Kung meron pong
Okay.
remedy, alam naman po ninyo bilang abogado na tama po yung sinasabi ni Congressman Acop, pwede po tayong mag-file ng relief sa court.
Okay. Tinutulungan ko lang kayo, sir, kasi napapahiya ang Pilipinas. Ganito ba ang House of Representatives?
More exchanges of words when it came time to ask one of the 4 OVP staff present in the hearing, DepEd Special Disbursing Officer Edward Fajardo. Since he handles confidential funds, Fajardo was asked about checks amounting to 112 million pesos. But Duterte insisted on documents as proof of such disbursement.
Dapat ganon, pero dapat pakinggan
1 minute recess declared by the chair.
Well, point of order.
Only lawmakers can raise points of order or questions on rules of a hearing. None of Duterte's known allies was present at the time to do this. Meantime, Fajardo confirmed that he only spoke to Duterte and a security officer named Colonel Dennis Nolasco when it came to DepEd confidential funds. Nolasco supposedly received all money withdrawn from Land Bank, which at one point averaged 4 to 6 million pesos per week.
Ngayon sinasabi niyo po sa amin na binigay po yung responsibilidad kay Colonel Nolasco. Hindi niyo po mapinpoint kung saan napunta yung pera. Dahil ang mas may alam po dito ay yung security officer po ninyo.
Yes, Your Honor, kasi siya po ang designated security officer. Siya po ang expert doon sa paggawa po nun. Siya lang po yung sa field.
You have never had any interaction whatsoever with any of the recipients of the money.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you cannot verify po the truthfulness of the ARs that you receive.
Sino po ang nagbigay ng pahintulot o ng kapangyarihan para si Colonel Nolasco po ang mag-disburse ng pera?
Your Honor, si BP Sara po.
Dapat kayo po ang nagdi-disperse. So you cannot designate that authority and that power to anybody else.
Later on in an ambush interview, Duterte no longer answered questions raised in the hearing. When asked if she will take her case against what she believes is the House's meddling to the Supreme Court, she had this to say.
We don't trust anyone anymore in this country. We don't expect justice anymore in this country. This is clear political harassment. This is clear political persecution.
For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
We actually got breaking news from Gio Robles, our News 5 reporter, that it was confirmed to News 5 by Bucor Chief Gregorio Katapang that there's already a room in the Women's Correctional Institute for Women prepared for attorney Zulaika Lopez.
I'm imagining though that this room has been prepared because the initial order, di ba, nung hating gabi, nung Friday, Saturday, and ililipat na siya talaga doon. So I'm sure meron na talaga siyang special quarters assigned for
Ito nakasulat, separate room siya. It's a personal room na medyo parang isang kwarto na tulugan. May sariling CR at naka-aircon naman ang facility. Pero wala raw special treatment.
Well, medyo touchy subject kasi ito, no? And why are they bringing, di ba? Yun yung lagi sinasabi ni Sara. Bakit
naman siya convicted.
Pero hindi, ayon kay Katapang, hindi raw siya ihahalo sa mga PDL o persons deprived of liberty.
And actually, this is not the first time that the House transferred someone dito sa Women's Correctional. If you remember si Cassandra Ong.
But they have cases.
Yes.
But they have cases.
Exactly.
And Zulaika Lopez does not have any filed against her in court. So that's the difference. And I think we'll ask our next guest that in just a few moments. But there's more, di ba? So in case you guys haven't been following or kumalas na kayo dun sa hearing dahil sa haba niya, ay siguro around 5:30 or 6 na excuse na si yung staff, yung Special Disbursement Officer na si Ms. Gina Acosta, dinala na rin
OVP.
siya of the OVP. Dinala na rin siya sa Veterans Memorial Medical Center at sinamahan siya ni VP Sara. Yun yung time na umexit si VP Sara.
Ano nangyari kay Gina?
Parang she was very tense. You know, at some point, VP Sara stopped the proceedings. Sabi niya, wait kasi kanina pa to natetense and umiiyak and So, agad-agad naman yung mga congressmen, pinapasok yung medic to have her check. Tumaas daw yung BP niya, 150 over 100. And then,
Attorney Zulaika, actually acute stress disorder was what she was complaining of. Pero the doctors, di ba, questioned also if she looks fine. She was just complaining of lack of sleep, di makatulog.
Stress, anxiety.
Pinapangungot.
mahirap sa mental health
Masakit
sometimes.
daw yung parang meron daw
meron
siya
siyang chronic
sa
back
likod,
pain, siya
oo.
spondylosis. But again, yung mental health kasi is also a big
Also
thing.
important,
Di ba? Hindi natin nakikita yun mahirap siyang sukatin. Okay, pero napakarami nga namang problema kasi na hinaharap.
Right, speaking of problems, well, an impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte may be filed by the end of this month. The Makabayan Bloc says they are in the process of putting the complaint together. They say the Vice President's actions and attempts to block and avoid investigation into her office's anomalous spending constitute a betrayal of public trust.
Loss of confidence at betrayal of public trust dahil doon sa kanyang mga patuloy na hindi pagsagot doon sa mga katanungan kaugnay ng kung paano ginastos yung kanyang confidential funds. At ganun din yung meron ng mga recent data, no? Halimbawa yung about 500 million na di umano ay nandun sa duffel bag at winidraw, no? So itong mga ganito sa totoo lang ay malinaw na katiwalian. Kasi hindi ganito yung kinakailangan na proseso, no? Doon sa paggastos ng pera. Ano man yan, no? Confidential, intelligence fund, o kung anumang pondo ng gobyerno, hindi ganyan ang dapat na ginagawa.
Kung ako nga nagdemanda kay Mr. Duterte sa ginawa niyang pagbabanta sa akin. Ito nga, sukdulan nga yung ginawa nitong si Vice President Sara Duterte.
Meanwhile, House Committee on Good Government Chair Joel Chua said they're actually seeing many impeachable offenses against Vice President Duterte.
Marami na po tayo nakikita ng grounds, betrayal of public trust, aggravated corruption, and so forth and so on. But with respect to the impeachment, if it will be filed by the House of Representatives, wala pa naman po kami na pag-usapan tungkol doon. Basta tayo, ito ginagawa pa lang natin yung ating trabaho dito sa committee. So, pag nag-conclude na, that's the time na pag-uusapan namin mga miyembro kung ano magiging laman o content ng aming committee report.
One thing is for sure though, according to the lawmakers, libel and disbarment complaints can now be filed against the Vice President.
Itong pagmumura, marami ng mga abogado ang nadisiplina ng Supreme Court o ng IBP Board of Governors dahil sa intemperate language o kaya yung foul language. So, these are the possibilities kung may magko-complain laban sa kanya for unethical conduct in a disbarment case or the Supreme Court, motu proprio by itself, can take on and investigate o kaya yung Integrated Bar of the Philippines Board of Governors can also look into it. Yung pangongontrata ng para patayin ang ibang tao. That by itself is really not respect for the law or respect for legal processes. Kung agrabyado ka, pwede ka namang dumulog sa korte, di ba? Pwede ka namang mag-file ng complaint or take precautionary measures. But hindi yung mangungontrata ka para pumatay na. That by itself kasi, ibig sabihin, you're using violence, not the processes of law.
So much to unpack from all the recent developments. Let's get some legal insights from our guest, constitutionalist and law lecturer, Attorney Michael Yusinko. Attorney Yusinko is a senior research fellow at the Ateneo Policy Center of the Ateneo School of Government. Welcome to The Big Story, Attorney.
Good evening to Gretchen, Sean, and Pauline, and good evening to all your viewers and listeners tonight.
Okay, I think you heard that previous report that was just airing right now. I also heard your interview earlier today, and I know that you want to see accountability over impeachment. Talk us through that.
Yeah. First, let's analyze what impeachment is. So impeachment is basically a political process. No? It's a partisan and divisive process that will result to the removal of the public officer or official in question, and also, if convicted, will suffer permanent disqualification to hold any other public office. But there is no criminal liability or administrative liability attached to the conviction by impeachment. In other words, all of what we're talking about now about the possibility of misuse of public funds, possibility of plunder of public funds, won't have any effect at all as far as attaching liability for it in an impeachment process. Now, knowing the fact that the Vice President is not immune from any suit then wouldn't it be more optimal to just file a plunder case now instead of filing an impeachment case first, right?
Yeah, but like you said, it is a political move, very political move. This is also what the Vice President calls the series of hearings in the House, both in the Committee of Good Government and the Quadcom, right? So maybe if the goal is to, for example, sasabihin mo, the midterms are coming, you want to end or kill the Duterte brand so that they cannot further run for office, would impeachment achieve that goal?
Well, for if she gets convicted, yes, and that's only true for her, no, for Vice President Sara. But the brand itself can persist through other through other Dutertes, of course. But as you mentioned earlier, my concern is accountability for the possible plunder that's that has been committed here. And therefore, I think that should be the priority rather than the political aspects of this situation, right? Because we're talking about 125 million taxpayers' money not being accounted for, no? Possibly lost for good. So I think our primary concern should be to get accountability and to get those persons responsible for the loss of that huge amount of money from our coffers, from the national coffers, get their due day in court and be meted the appropriate penalty.
Who can file the case in court? Can it be any citizen, given that this is a very public trust?
So that's a great question, Sean. And right now, the ombudsman should be getting into this action now, no? Because it is the ombudsman who has responsibility for these kinds of problems, no? For these kinds of issues. So it's not the lawmakers who are responsible for this; it's the ombudsman. And therefore, the ombudsman should take cognizance of this matter now, take jurisdiction of this issue now, and then conduct the proper investigation, and then file the appropriate indictment in the Sandigan Bayan.
Attorney, I want to go to the death threat issued by the Vice President to the President. What charges are you seeing that she could face here? And how do you determine reasonable grounds? I mean, we were talking to the NBI a while ago. There's a subpoena for the Vice President. They're giving her 5 days to explain herself. But I imagine she's not going to say anything other than her words were maliciously taken out of context. At joke lang ito, hindi naman seryoso. Pero paano nga ba? I mean, how do you imagine that case to go, and what charges could she be facing?
That's also a great question, Gretchen, and brings me back to my litigation days. No? So just from what we saw over the weekend, no? that video that was posted online, I think that by itself, barring any proof that it's fake, no, that in itself would constitute probable cause. No? Because it's very clear, no? All of the elements of a crime were present there. So, for at least from my perspective as a former litigator, I would look at the video itself as possible evidence to support probable cause. Of course, I have to defer to our prosecutors, the DOJ, because they are they know more about criminal law than I do. So that's just my evaluation. The video itself, I would say, would constitute probable cause.
But I mean, a while ago, we were mentioning this case of a 25-year-old teacher back in 2020 who made a death threat, or sinabi niya na kung sino makapatay kay President Duterte noon, bibigyan niya ng 50 million peso reward. Na sinabi naman niya ay hindi naman yun ang intention niya at nagsorry pa siya kay President Duterte. But then, back then, I remember, the prosecutors were saying that freedom of speech and expression are not absolute. And there was clear and present danger. Could the same thing apply here?
Oh, yes, yes. That's why the NBI is correct to conduct an investigation, no? Because the threat against the president can constitute as a clear and present danger, and therefore it doesn't enjoy any protection, free speech protection. Now, the difference with the teacher, the case of the teacher, the NBI made a mistake there, no? Because they did not offer any due process to that teacher. That's why the case was dismissed, no? They presumed that it was an ongoing crime, and therefore it justified a warrantless arrest. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's not the case. No, you have to follow due process and allow that person to defend himself and provide an explanation why he said those things that he said. So it's a case of the NBI learning from its own mistake, and now they're following the right process and giving the vice president the chance to explain herself. But yes, you're correct. The threat that was expressed and over the weekend, that would constitute a clear and present danger, and therefore it is not protected by free speech.
Okay, Attorney, let's talk about the video response of President Bongbong Marcos to that death threat. This is PBBM's strongest statement yet on any issue since taking power, no? Calling the threat of his life, criminal, and sinabi niya, papalag daw siya. What do you make of the statement of the President, his choice of words now being more straightforward? What do you make of his words?
Well, Pauline, I think I just want to comment on the content, no, rather than the timing or the style. So, on one hand, the president is correct to say that the threat that was issued against him and his family is a serious matter and can be considered a national security matter in itself. No? So, he is on point there. But it's just incredible to me that he would also raise the point that they are respecting separation of powers here, no? Because from what I see, the president and Congress are working together here, no? And they are not respecting the separation of powers.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you, Attorney Cinco, because sa napapansin ninyo, no, in the conduct of these hearings, matagal na rin, ilang buwan na rin, marami ka bang nakikitang mga, kumbaga, unconstitutional things na nangyayari? And what are the most glaring ones that you see?
So first, just to continue my thought earlier. No? So the first one is the politicization of executive agencies, no? Agencies within the executive branch, in particular the PNP and the Bureau of Corrections, no? Because the House of Representatives are getting these agencies and offices within the executive branch involved in their own work, no? So that to me means that the executive branch is allowing itself, or at least allowing its agencies, to be politicized by the House of Representatives. No?
Okay.
So that to me shows that there is a lack of respect on the part of the president and the leadership of Congress of the principle of separation of powers. No? Now, another unconstitutional or unconstitutionality that I'm seeing is in all of these hearings, in all of these inquiries, the in aid of legislation part is being ignored. No? The hearings being conducted by the Senate and by the House of Representatives, which are purported to be in aid of legislation, but the legislative purpose, the legislative objective is not being explained clearly
Attorney,
and with conviction.
Attorney, hindi ba bukod sa in aid of legislation, ang purpose din ng Kongreso ay meron silang power over the purse. Meaning, oversight over the purse, how the money is used. And sinasabi nga nila that this will aid craft legislation on confidential funds to be able to guide the use and checks and balances over that.
Yeah, but let's tackle that. First of all, let me explain the oversight function. The oversight function pertains to how the laws that they passed are being implemented. Right? So when a hearing is conducted with the purpose of oversight, then it has to be made clear what is the law that is being reviewed or how the law is being implemented. Right? So, kailangan sa simulat sa pool, lawmakers should explain to the public what laws are they exercising their oversight functions over. Right? What are the laws they intend to look into and determine whether the implementation is as they intended it to be.
That's exactly what the Vice President said in her very long letter to the House, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
No?
Okay.
Now, in this particular case of the confidential funds, right? If the intent is to determine how confidential funds are to be used, right? How confidential funds are to be audited, and how confidential funds are to be protected from, misappropriation and misuse, then wouldn't the most reliable resource persons be the COA? Because they would know, right? They would know how to answer those questions.
Attorney, mayroon na akong konting pahabol lang. In 30 seconds, can you tell us if the transfer to the Correctional Institute for Women is constitutional of Attorney Zuleika Lopez?
I think it's not. No, I think it's highly irregular because the Bucor, the BJMP, their authority is to take custody of prisoners, convicted prisoners.
Okay.
So if you bring a resource person there, that's essentially bringing in a civilian, which they are not authorized to handle.
Okay. Very quickly, super singit lang and very, very quickly lang to. Yes or no question lang, Attorney. Kunwari, congressman din ako, pero hindi, biro lang yun. Yung original 125 million na confidential funds na natanggap ni Sara Duterte noong 2022, noong December, na yun ang pinag-aawayan nila ngayon. Constitutional ba ang pag-transfer noon mula sa OP to the OVP? Kahit pa ni-request ng OVP yon sa OP?
On the surface, it's not, no? In fact, I would say allotting confidential funds to civilian offices, I think it's unlawful, I think it's unconstitutional. So the allocation of confidential funds itself to the OVP and DepEd, I would argue, is unconstitutional and unlawful.
Okay, wala na po tayong oras, but thank you so much for indulging all our pahabols and for joining us tonight, Attorney Michael Yusinko, Senior Research Fellow at the Ateneo Policy Center of the Ateneo School of Government. Maraming salamat, Attorney. We're going to pause for a quick break, but the big story still has more to come after that. Stay with us. That's it for the big story tonight, but I do have a reminder that there's only 30 days to go before Christmas.
30 days left. We are One News, all sides, all the time.